So game number 1 was last night between the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And Dallas, led by Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, they're two stars. They're two stars. I would say Luka superstar at his best. Kyrie's best superstar. Sometimes he's a little bit inconsistent with performances, but when Kyrie wants to be, he's a superstar. And they ended up beating a Timberwolves team who the supporting cast were quite a bit better than the supporting cast from Dallas. Like, it wasn't the greatest game for the Dallas supporting cast, but Minnesota did step up, or Minnesota's role player stepped up and hit some shots. One player who really did struggle was Anthony Edwards. And in Anthony Edwards' last 6 games, he has scored less than 20 points 4 times. They're also, I know he's won some of these games, but they're 2-4 in his last 6 games. And 4 of those 6 games, he has scored less than 20 points. So, it is, like, I do want to say, as good as that man is, and all these, like, next Jordan comparisons and everything, like, he is not one of the 5 best players in the NBA, regardless of what happens, unless he goes on some mad Dwayne Wade type run. Like, we've got people literally, I saw on Twitter yesterday saying, who's better, this current Ant or prime Dwayne Wade? And it's like, prime Dwayne Wade averaged near 40 points in NBA Finals and beat Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks with Shaq, who could barely move, and Antoine Walker is the second top scorer. Like, that was what Dwayne Wade did. Whereas Ant is exceptional. Ant, absolutely exceptional, has cemented himself in that top 10 conversation. But that's where he is right now. He could be, in 3 years, he could be the best player in the world. Not saying it's not possible, but I don't know. But there's one thing that he really needs to stop doing, and it is, for all the old school NBA fans are going to hate me saying this, because this is going to directly stop his team from winning, because they need Anthony Edwards on the offensive end. I don't care about how old school it is. Him insisting on the Kyrie matchup is not good for the team. It is straight up not good for the team. Him trying to do this old school, he's their guy. I'm on him. I'm guarding him. I'm guarding their best player. And, like, obviously, Luka's, to be fair, whoever's playing well between Luka and Kyrie is the best player on the Mavs. Normally, most time it's Luka. The difference is Luka's just too big for Ant. But, yeah, so he's, like, insistent on that matchup, mainly because, like, it's an ego thing. It's a pride thing. Oh, I want to guard the best player on the other team. When in reality, it's not working out. It's not going to work out at all for them because he's exhausted. And it's exhausting guarding Kyrie Irving, but then trying to be the number 1 option in offense too. Like, it's so hard. Like, even as great as a defender that Michael Jordan was, Scottie Pippen most of the time took the best player. Like, a lot of the time Jordan was, when he needed to, was one of the best players, but it was rare that he took the best player. When Cleveland won in 2016, they put LeBron James and Harrison Barnes so that he didn't have to expend all the energy. And yeah, there are series where, for example, like 2011, Miami versus Chicago, every time it got tight, LeBron took D-Rose. 2013 finals, anytime down the stretch, LeBron went on Tony Parker. But when we're looking at, like, the guys who can guard during his best player and give you everything on offense, it's just not a thing. It's just not a thing putting up 40 points while guarding the other team's best player. Like, Kobe is probably maybe the last time we've seen that. Because I know Kawhi, you can say that about Kawhi Leonard, but Kawhi Leonard, when he, in that 2019 run where he was unbelievable on offense, yeah, he was still guarding your team's best player all the times, but he wasn't the same defender as he was in 2015 because he couldn't put that same energy on defense. As good as a defender as he wasn't that same defender as back then. And that's just the case with Anthony Edwards. Like, down the stretch, put him on Kyrie. There are situations in the game, put him on Kyrie, because he's definitely a better defender than Mike Conley right now. But if you're Minnesota, you've got to just say to him, look, this isn't an issue with your defense, and not let his ego get in his way of winning a game, because it's clear that the more he focuses on defense, the more the offense suffers. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's incredibly difficult to play both of them at a high level. But they've got to be smarter, and he's got to be smarter. He's got to know and pick and choose his times for when he's going to guard Kyrie. Pick and choose the time to do it, because they need his offense more than they need his defense. They can build some sort, like, they can try to get Kyrie out of the game with just system-wise. They can try to force him into a Rudy Gobert. Because at the same time, you're looking at Gafford, who's stinking it up at the minute for the last couple of games. Lively's been far, far superior. You can put him in situations where you're kind of funneling him into Rudy Gobert. Maybe making things a little more difficult for him. And Obviously, Jaden McDaniels is a good matchup on Luka, as good as Luka was last night. But that's really where the Timberwolves do need to step up, because Gobert is giving you Gobert things. Gobert is such an important player for this team. He led the team in plus minus. He gives you Gobert things. Regardless of what Draymond Green says, Gobert doing Gobert things is going to win you a game. Reid is a good bench player. He's going to be perfectly fine. Nickeil Alexander-Walker can play a bit of defense. Maybe at times you look to a lineup of Nickeil Alexander-Walker instead of Mike Conley for a bit more time. But obviously Mike Conley is such an important part of their offense. But I think for 15 minutes a game, if you put Conley on Kyrie, Conley can probably give you 10 minutes of decent defense on Kyrie right now. Because again, as much as he's not the best defender right now, he's still a vet, and he still was one of the best defensive point guards in his prime. So you've got that matchup that you can kind of go to at times. Then when Alexander Walker is on, you can put him on Kyrie. And then for 10 minutes of the game, in some of the most important stages, you can use Anthony Edwards on defense. They need to be a bit more, like as I've said, they just need to be more selective and be smarter about their defensive schemes. Because trying to make this an ego battle, I'm sorry, when you make basketball an ego battle, it normally becomes a case where the better hoopers win. It's not the entirety of the sport of basketball. But if you make everything this is me versus you, the better hoopers win, and the two best hoopers are Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Minnesota played that game horribly last night, just tactically. And I do think that they're still the favorites to win this series, but adjustments need to be made. And throughout this playoffs, especially towards the end of that series, he's starting to tire. He's gave a ton. Like, even though they swept the Suns, that Minnesota Timberwolves team gave everything. And in that game 7, what they gave in game 6, game 7, the first 2 games of that series, that type of an effort, it's very hard to do that for series upon series upon series. And you can start to see them getting a little bit tired. So they just need to manage the game better. They just need to manage their players better. And I think they're going to be perfectly fine. The Minnesota Timberwolves are probably the better team out of the two. But I would love Dallas to win. Dallas were my prediction to win it all. One of the first videos on this channel is saying Dallas are going to win it all. And Luka looked better. I know his knee bust open, but I don't know what's going on with that. But he actually did move a lot better. That was the best he's moved since game 3 of the first round. Still not right, but at this stage in the playoffs, most people are going to be 80% of their peak physical condition anyway, and Luka actually looks about 80% of himself. So he doesn't look that much different than the other guys. Everyone's banged up now, and it doesn't look like he's like actually hurt. You never know. One awkward movement, one misstep, anyone can get injured at this stage, but you just never know. So yeah, that is pretty much it, lads. Anthony Edwards just needs to play basketball and not get worried about so much about locking down Kyrie and locking down his matchup. Just worry about what he's doing well and making sure his team gets as many points as possible.